Oh gosh. All right. We are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Inner Tapestry Series. Today we're going to take it in a completely new direction with our conversation. We're still talking about everything blueprint and like what's within us, but today we're going to get into some of the stuff that can knock us off of our blueprint, get us off of our path, the patterns, the disruptions, the beliefs that we might be holding that's bullshit and we don't need to carry it around anymore. And I love that this is what came up because literally I wrote in my planner last time Red and I were live, I wrote untangling the bullshit ? As our future topic. And then at the recent moon circle I did, we connected with the bull guide, and the bull kept saying, get out of your own bullshit. And so when I sat down and I'm like, oh, what are we talking about today? Untangling the bullshit. I was like, oh, perfect timing. So a delight as always to have you here, Red. If you'll go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience in case they don't know who you are.
Well, my name is Red MoonEagle, and I am a psychic catalyst. I'm the healer's healer or teacher's healer. Physical shadow light work. I've been doing a lot of things for decades. So this is, and like most people, you live a real world life, right? Where you go out and you work in the world and you compartmentalize. And the untangling the bullshit is near and dear to my heart because out in the world, there's a lot of tangling happen. And even as though I was hiding out in plain sight, I always called it like stealthily normal, right? And it was always, there was always an undercurrent of, where did you get that? And helping people untangle the bullshit. And now that I can be all of who I am, right, in a space and be here with you and share this, we can break these patterns. We don't have to hold on to these things. We don't need to. Let's unburden bullshit.
Yes. Oh my gosh, unburdening. What an important topic that is just in of itself. But in case you don't know me, I'm Safrianna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I too have been helping people untangle their bullshit for quite a while as a retired or currently retired, we'll see, trauma therapist, and now in the role of a guide, a consultant, a writer, to see all of the disruption in society that we have today that separates us from our true self and separates us from walking in alignment with our blueprint, right? So the concept of blueprints, Red, was something that, like, I don't know if I had a word for it before I met you. I don't, I probably called it like our sacred design or something, but you know, when I started having conversations with you, you put into perspective something that I'd always felt, but I'd never heard articulated before, which is that there's no there's no such thing as like evil. It's just on blueprint or off blueprint. And we can be a little bit off blueprint or we can be really, really off blueprint where we're like literally just hacking up the world around us. So, are you willing to just speak to that a little bit, that you know, when we're in alignment and we're on our blueprint, it's like we're able to sort out the bullshit. We know it's not ours. So can you speak a little bit to that?
So there's a quality of alignment is a big word, right? And it can be again, it can turn into this whole other bullshit conversation where there's shame, fear, disappointment, there's manipulations used to make you worry of whether or not you are in alignment with your blueprint. In reality, kind of how it really works in your life is kind of simple. It's so simple and so oversimplified. People don't, it has to be more complicated than that. And I think of it this way. You get up in the morning, you get dressed, you eat your breakfast, or you don't, you get your cup of coffee, you get in the car, and you can't find your keys. You go back inside and you're looking for your keys. Now, the more you go looking for your keys, you're getting later and later. So you get more and more worried, right? And then it's, what did I do with my keys? Did the gremlins take my keys? what did I do in the world that made me late for work? And why are my keys not where they're supposed to be? Like, you go into this place of fear, shame, disappointment, right? When you find your keys, you're now ramped up, right? You go get in the car, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. And I still have to get through 30 minutes of traffic. And I like to leave at this time because I know at this time I'm going to meet this car on the road. And I know I'm going to be there on time. I'm going to get my favorite parking place. I'm going to, before Karen comes in and wants to tell me all about her son's baseball game that I could care less about, you know, like whatever it is, right? You're now late to the party.
Mm.
And you get wrapped up in, well, maybe if I take this shortcut, I'm going to take this shortcut. I know that if I take this road, I'm going to go around the big knot of traffic, right? Because a big flashing sign, there's a billboard that says, go this way, or your GPS says, go this way, you're going to cut 5 minutes off your travel. Okay. So you take that road, and what you don't know is Farmer John has decided he wants to spray his fields, and he has pulled out the irrigator, and he is right in the middle of that road. And he is putzing along at 5 miles an hour. And you can't get around him because there's traffic coming in the other direction. They're on their own path, right? You're not only late, but now you're 15 minutes past your clock in time at work. So you know this. You're checking along behind Farmer John because you're like, oh, fuck. And you're like, okay, I'm going to be so late, I might as well not even go. Look, there's a goat farm over there. I can go pet some goats. And you go pet some goats, and the farmer that's the goat herder has talked you into, by the 15 minutes that you've been there, that you're going to buy the goat farm from him. And you're going to raise goats, quit your job, sell your house. By the end of the day, you've bought into a damn goat farm. Do you see how distracting the perspective of getting off of your blueprint? In real life, I've actually heard people tell me stories like that. And in some ways, the goat farm is, yes, exactly where they were meant to be. And in other ways, the goat farm leads to their husband leaves them, their kids don't want to talk to them, they're ostracized from their family, none of their friends talk to them. They go so far afield that nothing lines up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And in real life, the universe, it all started with the keys, right? All started with the keys. Symbol there, yes, because I use metaphor and symbols, of course. But there's a quality of when you lose your keys, there's an opportunity to learn to recenter, get in the car, go to work, do the work, trust the process. You don't know that your keys being hidden by the universe for that extra 10 minutes that you discovered somehow they ended up in the freezer, and you do not know how that happened. That there was an accident on the freeway, and the universe was just trying to keep you from being a part of that accident as part of your journey. That wasn't part of your journey, but you still needed to go to work, right? One little hiccup doesn't mean the universe is out to get you, that you have to go buy a goat farm.
Yeah. And this is what I call, in this example where it's like, I lost my keys. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Why did I lose them? I call these suffering stories. And so there's a big difference between pain and suffering. So as we're like weeding out the bullshit, pain is an inevitable part of life. We cannot avoid pain. By being in these 3D meat suits, by being here on the planet, we are going to experience pain. That's nature. Now, what we don't have to experience is, and I gave this example to a client the other day, right? You're walking through your bedroom and you stub your toe. And you're like, ow, oh my God, that hurt like hell, right? Now, that can be the pain. And you can go, what do I need around this pain? Well, I need to sit down. I need to put a hand on my toe, offer it some energy, feel through it right now because it freaking sucks. But what do a lot of us do? We go, I am a worthless human being for being so freaking clumsy. Why did I stub my toe? You know, what's wrong with me? Now I'm not going to be able to walk the rest of the day. And we spin ourselves into a story of suffering. Same thing in your example, right? Like now I've made this big thing because I couldn't find my keys. And now I've completely derailed my whole day, if not my whole life, because I'm telling a story of suffering. And
Yep.
so that story of suffering is one of the probably most common pieces of bullshit that we deal with on a day-to-day basis as humans, is just like the fine line between ouch and ouch, I'm going to make a whole to do about why I'm in this pain right now, rather than just sitting with the pain and saying, oh, woo, okay, do I actually need to learn something from this? Is there something I need to integrate? Or was this just like an accident? I stubbed my toe. Okay, I can move on, right? Like to sit with what's really going on here instead of immediately getting sucked into the stories, the suffering stories that just go on and on and on. Yeah, they're a huge
And
distraction.
they are a huge distraction. And you asked about blueprint, getting off blueprint, being slightly on blueprint, getting way off of blueprint. Something that I learned a long time ago, and it was repeated in front of me so many times that it's impossible to miss now for me, which is the universe will do anything and everything. Your guides, your helpers, how you're integrated in the spiral, in this world, in this 3D, 4D, 5D experience. The universe will do anything and everything in its power to keep you on your blueprint. Every time you get slightly off, it's interesting that we build choice in. As long as you're sticking to the choices that you wrote, that you said you wanted to learn, this is about you. You're the one who wrote the damn thing. Nobody wrote it. No counsel that's saying, shame on you, you suffer here. You know, there's nothing. That isn't even a thing. I don't even know where that comes from. It just fascinates me that the universe will do anything and everything to keep you on your path. If you're on it, it's really easy. If you lose your keys and then you find your keys, you breathe into it, you get in your car and you go to work, it works. It just is. But when you took that sidetrack because you were trying to take a shortcut, you got behind Farmer John. Farmer John was trying to keep you on your path, saying, hey, just pay attention. You should have taken the other road. Hiccup there, but now I'm forcing you to slow down and pay attention.
Yep.
What did you do? You went, I don't want to pay attention. I don't want to slow down. I am so wrapped up in my suffering story.
Mm-hmm.
Goat farm could indeed be completely jumping the track. And if you completely jump the track, you can always get back on track. This is the beautiful thing about blueprints is even if you decide tomorrow, I do not want to participate in this game, I'm going to go pout in the corner. That's okay. You can do that. You can take that. Just understand that the universe is literally, and every single time you open your eyes, every single moment of the rest of your life that you think you're pouting in the corner, it is shoving opportunities at you to help you get back on your blueprint.
Yep.
The universe
Oh my
is not
gosh.
out to get you. The universe is trying to help you.
Yep. Oh my gosh. I think back to my younger self, right? My 20s were fraught with trauma. You've now read my poetry book, you know all about it. And there were like so many opportunities in there for me to go, wow, this is not how I like to feel. And I had the opportunity to stop it and move on. But the bullshit story was I deserve this. I need this to teach me something instead of just like letting it already teach me the thing and leaving, right? Like I need more time to learn this lesson. I'm incapable of getting it the first time, right? So self-made limitations
Oh,
that
that's a
we
big one.
make is a huge thing here. So I think that's
Yes.
bullshit number 2 is like
Yeah.
the limitations that we didn't initially place on ourselves these
No,
limitations. They were
no.
outside stories from other people who grew up in the environment of limiting themselves, and then they feed it to our little children selves, and we're like, yeah, this is the only food I know, so I'm going to eat it and eat it and eat it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's another piece to that that I think is interesting. The bullshit part that layers on top of that is then also looking for the quick, I don't know if it's looking for the quick fix or looking for the outside guru to tell you how to fix it.
Mm.
Right? So
I'm typing
you
our bullshits as we go.
like, like there's the you wrapped up in your own suffering, right? And then the limitations that you're accepting from other people's stories and beliefs then lead you to, I must need this magical person or this magical thing or this, I don't know, religion or cult or pick a thing. I don't know. There's a lot of them to give me the steps to solve my suffering and lift my limitations and fix it. So I don't have to actually participate. I don't have to do anything other than fulfill the formula this guru, because that guru holds the answer, or that magical thing holds the answer to all of my pain. They're looking to
Right.
relieve, well, that's a whole other thing. You know where I'm going with that. Like
Yeah.
there's this, there is no magic. You and I
No.
are not magic gurus, Safrianna.
No, we're not.
And
No, that's why I'm always like, I want to connect you with yourself.
yes, it's always about connecting someone to their own blueprint, connecting them to their power, connecting them to their, I don't like to use the word higher self, but to who they are as an entity.
Mm-hmm.
Real entity is that's experiencing this meat suit experience, right?
Right.
Out magic necklace, magic vibrational machine you sit in front of. No, there are so many things that I have done, Safrianna, that I want to believe just as much as somebody else does that this magical, I had an experience many years ago, so I'll just use this one as it. They were like, we have this engine. We want you to sit in front of this engine in this chair, and we're going to put these little plastic cones in front of you that are different colors with a whopping crystal at the end. And we're going to have you sit in front of it, and it's going to transform your DNA into the 12th dimension of blah. And of course, I'm going,
People will believe anything right now to try and get out of suffering, won't they?
right. And I went, well, I don't know that's a thing. They're like, no, you have to try it. We'll agree. Like, God forbid, what the hell are you charging for that? You know, like, I didn't say that, but I was thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
Because need have opened a portal of whatever. Like, I don't know. I'll try it. My intuition says there's something wrong with this. There's a lot of fear that they're trying to trigger for me to get me to participate. And it's not working. And right. I'm confused because I didn't understand what the hell this is supposed to do. And I sat in that thing for 30 minutes and I got up and they were like, did you feel anything? Like, and I went, no.
No.
Was I supposed to? And then I just went, no, maybe it's not the right time for me. I'm trying to be really graceful. I'm trying to be really kind. But it is a fear paradigm. It's trying to hook you into that fear that you're not good enough, that you don't have enough power yourself to integrate who you are as an entity in your meat suit.
Yeah.
That is a false paradigm. It is not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet it's like so many of us struggle with this line of allowing ourselves that inner authority, allowing ourselves to step into our power. And, I think that is I don't know if this is bullshit number 4, but something about the fear of being alone, being unloved if we step
Mm.
into our truth, right?
Oh yeah.
And the reality is that when we step fully into our truth, we find our people that can actually honor our truth. When we're afraid to step into our truth, we end up surrounded by people who don't want the truth. They want to take advantage of, because they believe we're going to be their quick fix, or we're going to make it better for them. We're going to take care of them. And it comes from their own like fear of not being loved, right? So I don't know how to articulate this as a bullshit, but like the tangliness of
I think what
fear.
so fear is underneath all of these bullshits, right? Like fear is
Mhm.
underneath all of them. Uh, Part of that shadow piece, and I've journeyed through it myself, and I can look back and go, wow, I every single time there was a death, there was a new window of a layer of something that bubbled up afterwards. Like it was a whole new thing. It was like, oh my God, here's a whole new part of my life I didn't even know I was dealing with. It was part of my blueprint. Like, oh, here's your cookie. Here's your next lesson. Here's your next opportunity. And one of the things that in one of my, it was a real solid chunk of a couple of years there where alone was a big piece of it. Like not understanding, or let me rephrase that. I understood that everybody around me were these beautiful entities, these beautiful, magnificent entities that I wanted to not only let them see that I could see them, but that they could see me. And I wasn't really that scary because apparently I'm terrifying. Because I'd been told that over and over and over again. Red, you're just weird. You're just you scare me. You're just a little weird. You're just a little odd. It was always this. I made people uncomfortable,
Right.
and I didn't want to make them be afraid of me, but I didn't know how to be me. The piece in that where the aloneness, the isolation of recognizing that a way to connect, and I didn't know how to do that. And
Mhm.
I had to journey a path of aloneness. And in that aloneness, 100%, I attracted some some really damaged people.
Yeah, I
Not
can
because
imagine.
I was doing anything, it's not that I was doing anything wrong. And this is where, when you're looking at these bullshit attractions, right? You're attracting what it is that is your mirror for your lesson, right? Instead of, I got a lot of advice with this. Let me tell you, when it was happening, a lot of advice. And most of it was adding bullshit on top of bullshit, right? And I kept leaning into, no, I think this has to do with me. Like, I think there's something that I need to figure out. I don't think it's that, yes, there's a lot of damaged people around me, but I don't think it's their fault that I'm trying to something out. I never blamed them. Never, not once. It was always about, what did I need to learn? Took me a long time. It feels like it was a long time. It's probably about a decade. It was about a decade of just constantly hitting the same thing over and over. I'm so alone. I'm not being heard. I'm not being seen. Why is that? What am I doing wrong? What is not authentic? How am I doing it incorrectly? And it was fundamentally very much like you said, it was my journey to say, wait a minute, you have this internal knowingness that you're trying to deny, you're trying to say that thing
Yep.
because the world isn't ready.
Yep.
And so, fine, fuck it, I'll be out there. And my world fell apart, it imploded. And at the time, there was a lot of hurt and pain involved in that, because I was like, okay, I stepped into my goddamn power, and now the universe is saying, oh, yep, here's the implosion. And I thought, well, what did I do wrong that time?
Yep.
I actually didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
I
recalibration.
I recalibrated. Yes, I recalibrated out of that broken paradigm of that aloneness, of not speaking my truth, not being in my power.
Yeah.
And then, ironically, just like it does with everybody else's blueprint, things got easy for a while. Mind-blowingly easy. Like,
Something's wrong here. Wait, it's maybe that's
it's
bullshit number. What number are we on? Bullshit
I
number
know, yeah, I've lost count.
5. I'm going as we're literally talking about this. I think number 5 here is like the belief that it needs to be hard, that it always
Yes,
has to be hard.
yes. It doesn't. There's a beauty in your blueprint. This is why I tell people over and over and over again. Your blueprint is the way it's supposed to be. It is beautiful. It is, if you want to call it divine, go right ahead. But you wrote it, so you're part of divinity. Enjoy time. It's all
Yep.
part of it. And the struggle, right? Like my decade of everything I did seemed to be hard. There were always glimmers. There were always things the universe, my guides would bring me saying, hey, I know it's hard. Here's a cup of tea. I know it's hard, but you're doing a good job. Here's a glass of water. You know, like the universe was bringing me the things I needed to reinforce that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And there were parts were really awful and hard, but that's okay because somehow I always knew if I just trusted the process, no matter how ass backwards it seemed, I was watching it play out in the people I was helping, that they too would have these beautiful moments of revelation of rest. Because there's a rest when you get where it is you're going, so to speak, right? Like you overcome that hill, whatever that hill is. There's pain involved. It hurts. But you get to the
Right.
top of that hill and you can see the vista. You see the vista of beauty and bliss and happiness and joy and purpose. And it just feels so good. At the same
Yes.
time, that the world outside says, no, Red. Oh, you're being tricked. There's some devil around the corner trying to tempt you. It's not supposed to be that easy.
Oh my God, I love that one. I love that narrative of you must be suffering for it to mean
No, that's
godliness. Like,
bullshit.
no, that is big bullshit. Yes, the belief that it has to be hard, period. And yes, it does. It will, again, pain is a part of life. We can't
Yeah,
escape that. So yes,
absolutely.
there will be challenges, right? We stub our toes all the time. We lose our keys.
Yeah,
We're we get sick, like things happen.
of course.
But it doesn't, we don't have to stay in that narrative of suffering and keep it being hard. We can be like, wow, this is hard right now. I'm acknowledging it. I'm leaning into it a little bit. And I know that the equation is going to rebalance and then the joy will be on the other side. Well,
Yes.
also, how can we bring a little bit of joy into it right now? And
Yeah.
I just want to rewind a little bit to that fear of being ourselves and standing in our truth, because that also goes with it needs to be hard, right? Because when we're not
Right.
standing in our truth, life is really hard
Oh, it's
because
awful.
it's like we're trying to swim through mud because the universe is like, no, don't go that way. Don't go that way. That is not the way you're meant to be going. And
Yes.
there's a difference, there's a nuance between, because I talk about this too, and it's so important. Sometimes fear is that sign of like, go that way. That's your next big breakthrough. There's a very big difference between, wow, I'm so afraid to do this. And then I start doing it and I'm like, wow, this is great, wonderful, versus, well, this is the path I think I'm supposed to take. And it looks easy on the outside, right? It's the easy choice right now. And then it's like slogging through the mud and it's like, oh my God, this is miserable, right? There's not really so much fear in that usually. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is fine. It's hard. Like we tell ourselves all these suffering stories, but the experience is like the going through mud because the universe is trying to steer us back.
It is. And I think there's a big piece in here that is missed, an opportunity that is often missed. And now like, okay, I'm going to slow down and pay attention because something's not right here. And that's we talk about the entities within. This is not where you go to mind it. The universe is showing you in every moment and in every connection the alignment with you choices. The beautiful thing that I like to say is, you know yourself as at an entity level. I joke with my friends all the time, like, what was I smoking on the other side that I gave myself all these, like, what's this universal ganja? Like that stuff must have been good.
I was on a lot of that ganja, let me just say.
Right? And the other side of it is, we know who we are. We are this vast entity that we only have so much access to in this realm, right? So when you build choices into your blueprint, you know whether or not you like oatmeal raisin cookies or sugar cookies. You know that. You already know that as an entity. You're put something in your blueprint that is a one-off Thin Mint. Like, if you don't like Thin Mints, you're not going to put them in your blueprint. That won't even be an option. So if you're plodding along and you're moving along and it doesn't line up with what you know of who you are as an entity living in this meat suit, and the entities within are signaling loud and clear, you don't like Thin Mints, you probably don't want to pick that one. Pay attention. Just pay attention.
Yep.
And it's not in here. It's finding a body felt integration. And nobody from the outside can tell you what you like. I get people in my office all the time where they're like, I don't know what to do, Rad. I feel like I should do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And I go, okay, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And I ask them questions, or I tell them what they've told me 15 sessions ago. And they go, oh, I didn't know you knew that about me. I'm like, you told me that. Did you hear yourself? I'm not telling you something you already know.
Yep. I just articulated this as bullshit 6, which is others know better than me. I don't know what's right for me. No, I gotta, and that's kind of the guru piece, but it really is like, we'll look to our friend and be like, well, what do you think I should do? Right. But we know, I have flashbacks all the time to like one of my moments of like deep discernment. I, in my 20s, in this really not good relationship, and I knew like the universe was trying to steer me over and over and over and over again. And finally, my intuition was like, okay, you need to go get a specific deck to navigate this issue. And I literally traveled like an hour and a half away and went into the store that the deck told me it would be in. And we made eye contact, me and this deck. And I went and I got it. And I bring it home. It was a Morrigan deck. And I don't directly work with a Morrigan usually. But the Morrigan was associated with this person. And so she literally in the reading is like, you already know the damn answer. You've known the damn answer. Why did you have to wait for me, this like the dark feminine, to give you the permission to make the choice? But I will, because you're making me. It was a very funny reading. But I remember like getting done with it and I'm like, I do know better. I do know this answer. And I've just been resisting it for years and years and years because I didn't want it to be the right answer. But I knew that. I was waiting for someone else to validate it, and no one else was validating it because they didn't see what I was going through on the inside, because I possess my blueprint. No one else does, right? So that's like something that's so important, is no one knows better than you. And when you're like, oh, well, anytime we're like in the second guessy kind of energy, that's an opportunity for us to take a big step back and sit with ourselves and get really, really honest, like go within, because the answers are there.
And it's part of that shadow light journey, right? Like, you can't go inside. You can't really go inside and touch your full potential unless you're willing to travel the shadow light journey. There is no shortcut there for the shadow light journey, because it's part of the duality and the flow of how we're living as entities in the spiral through the blueprint into this life. And anybody who tries to tell you there's a shortcut, oh, I'm going to go do psilocybin, that's going to be my shortcut. Oh, I'm going to go do ayahuasca, that's my shortcut. Oh, I'm going to go to this retreat in Africa and take whatever that drug is, and I'm going to basically try to kill myself with this drug with the hope of skipping all the little steps to doing the work. You cannot skip steps because it's your blueprint. Now, if your blueprint has, you're going to go to South America and do ayahuasca, great. Okay. I'm not going to say that's not part of your journey.
Right.
I won't ever really tell anybody that unless they come to me and say, hey, Red, somebody else told me I should go do this, and I don't feel like I should do this. What do you think? I'm like, well, what do you think? And usually it ends up being a, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And they decide not to go to South America and do ayahuasca because they figured out, oh, wait, my blueprint tells me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's drugs, just drugs, all of them, drugs. Bullshit. Stop. That's my soap. Stop.
Meanwhile, I'm like, sometimes drugs intentionally for fun, for enjoyment, for a very intentional ritual or experience. Like, I think it can be fun. That's because, well, I won't say all of the drugs. I will say the natural ones. I believe Mama Gaia has some fun little compounds for us to play with, but it can absolutely become the bullshit where it's avoidance, it's escapism, there's nothing left in it that's good anymore. It's just, that takes me back to there was a little animation someone made of this like little duck crane figure running along, and it was eating this golden nugget, right? And it keeps eating the golden nugget. It's just chasing the golden nugget. It's chasing, and you see it become depleted and run down because it's not chasing the golden nugget's not that blueprint. Like, that's not what anyone's meant to do, and it can get so bad so quick.
I think the way that I look at it a little and I know I kind of soapbox the whole drugs thing, but that's because there's so much of the indigenous ceremonial medicine that there's actually a process.
Yeah.
And process of discernment in your blueprint in when the ceremony, what ceremony for what purpose. I love one of the stories of indigenous people. So colonists came over and they wrote treaty and they said, this is what we're going to do. And they took it back to England. And then of course they completely didn't honor that contract. Right. Well, this particular story, because I can't remember the tribe, so I apologize, but this particular received the result of that. And they were like, instead of being angry, they went and did, and the purpose of the ceremony was, we want to heal the mental sickness of these people who didn't leave that agreement with reality. They left with this ulterior sick purpose of mind, not connected to land and their bodies and their purpose, right? And indigenous communities around the world, you can listen to legends from around the world that this is not just Native American indigenous knowledge. This is world circumferencing, right? And there's a knowingness that ceremony is about connecting body, mind, spirit, and emotion. Unfortunately, what's happened in our modern colonial, patriarchal, capitalist world is somebody had this amazing awakening and decided to make it a money-making scheme, and it's become twisted into another layer of bullshit. I cannot tell you in the last 5 years, especially the last 2 years, oh, Red, we're going to have this cacao ceremony, and we're going to do this ceremony, and these this person has trained under this guru of this whatever stuff. And I went to that ceremony. I went, this is a kid who isn't very old, hasn't actually lived life, and he doesn't actually know what the hell he's doing. And this is called trauma dumping. And you are not actually using ceremony or the medicine of the plant properly.
Right. Yeah.
And I spoke the truth and basically got told I'm being mean. And I went, okay, then I am leaving, right? Like, I value that that's their lesson. That's it's their thing. And I honor that. And I know that's their thing. But this is my thing. If you ask me a question, if you're going to be mad at me for giving you the answer, okay then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, everything must be productive and monetizable. Not true. Stop that. Stop that bullshit. I hate
Yes. Which gets me into one that I wanted to make sure we talk about today, because I think it's the greatest bullshit of all. And I have a feeling you're going to deeply agree with me. Just a feeling. And I'm writing about it a lot. I actually hopefully will have a Medium feature coming out in which I name this as the world's biggest issue. The biggest bullshit in the world is us versus them mentality.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Us versus them. There's always got to be an outsider. There's always got to be somebody that I can blame, point my finger at, be upset with. There's always got to be division. There's always got to be a right person and a wrong person. It's all bullshit. And
It is all
you speak a lot about community, and you have your medicine wheel with the elements in the middle, and the community is the wheel that holds it. That's the planet. We are not separate entities here at all, and yet we act over and over and over again as if we are, right? And there's always a group. And I know that the group around the world is different, right? It's very geographical and based in your culture and your society. Who is the other? Here in the United States right now, the biggest other is probably trans people and, of course, people of color. But trans people have been under big fire recently. It was the LGBTQ population for a while, and then they were like, no, we'll accept you, but we're going to cut out the T. Now the T is the bad one, and we have to make them problematic, right? Like, I've seen this happen as I've aged. Like, there's a shift every few years into who we're going to point the finger at, right? When I was in middle school is when 9/11 happened, and the other at that point was anyone wearing a turban. They're the other. Anyone with, Arabic looking features, they're the other. They're bad.
Yep.
And even then I was like, how? Like, they weren't the one. What? Right? So this us versus them mentality, I think, is a big bullshit that we need to stop completely, because it is destroying our planet. Anytime that we feel like we have to be in conflict with one another for whatever silly reason.
I think that because you're right, it is the us versus them. I argue this constantly. And I've actually had people confront me with it. Well, Red, you other people. And I went, okay, how? And it's usually something like to the effect of, well, you sounded very judgy. And I'm like, okay, I can sound judgy 100%. I'm asking the questions to get you to think about it. Because I ask a question doesn't mean I believe an alternative to what I'm asking. There is such a thing as critical thinking and devil's advocate, because it encourages people to think outside the box. I had a wonderful mentor with this. My father was just very powerful with it. Like, I'd make a statement, right? And he'd go, have you thought about that? And I'd go, wait a minute. I didn't mean it that way. He goes, yeah, but you said it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, point. And then, of course, that leads to me being an over talker, right? So now I'm trying to explain everything overly. And I've had to learn to pull back a little bit from that. But there is an us versus them in so many things. And it starts, unfortunately, people are like, it's a country versus a country, a culture versus a culture, a religious dogma versus a religious dogma. there's more to it than that. And it goes back to you walking around in your meat suit. And it goes back to, we're going to go back to entities within. We're going to go back to generational trauma. We're going to go back to biases, sexism, racism, classism, pickaism, right?
Pickanism, yep.
Pickanism. We'll just use me. I am a pasty white chick with red hair. Clearly, I am a white female. Obviously, I'm going to be racist. Obviously, I am entitled. Obviously, I'm Christian. All the obviousness, right? From the outside looking in. My worldview is not that. My worldview is colorful and beautiful and rich. My worldview is my ancestry, which is Black and Indian and white and European and all over the place. Apparently, I have some Asian in me too. Like, I didn't even know that was there. Awesome. Right? Like, cool. Look at that color. Look at that rich cultural background. I am not Christian. Probably never have been, no matter how many times I've been baptized, which, yes, I have been baptized 7 times.
I don't think I've ever been baptized, which is fun because I, under some umbrellas, am absolutely still actually considered Christian. But that's a whole other story. Yes, it's like we can't judge.
You can't bucket and judge by the outside. And there is this crosshatch of, in your life, as you're walking through life, those biases bubble up unconsciously. Yep. There's a wonderful podcast that I was listening to, and it's the guy who wrote My Grandmother's Hands, I think, and or maybe it's actually in the book. He talks about his wife was sitting at or she had gone shopping to Walmart, and she went to check out, she checked out, she went to leave, and the lady goes, I want to look at your receipt. And then she sat down and ended up drinking a bottle of water. And as she was watching, the lady who was the receipts was only stopping the people of color. And when his wife addressed the issue, there's all this resistance, but also flabbergasted, unconscious realization that there was racism happening right there in that moment. And neither of the people that were being racist were even aware that they were being racist, because it's in our bodies through that trauma. So yes, when you're walking around in your life and you say something, right? You say something racist, you do something racist. We're going to use racism, or you use sex, like you're uncomfortable around somebody who's trans, right? Like something bubbles up, your body tells you this is uncomfortable. What our society is telling that uncomfortable means it's evil, right? It's an othering. It's evil. It's a sin. It's wrapped in this shame, disappointment, fear, othering, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I challenge that. I've always challenged that. I'm like, ooh, what's in this box? Ooh, what's in this box? What does that mean? What is this icky, uncomfortable feeling? Like, I challenge people all the time. Lean into that. What is that discomfort? The dearest people in my whole life is trans. Her name is Elizabeth. She's absolutely amazing. She is this 6'8" woman who is the most beautiful indigo soul. I remember when I met her, I went, oh, you're magnificent. Like not from the perspective of me as a gender neutral abrosexual type identity white female to this at the time white male, right? That's not what I saw. I never see those things. I always see who the entity is. And I was like, oh, I want to know you. And her journey, in her trans journey, has been fraught with all these full experiences. And she and I've talked about it. She's like, it's like you're the only person left in my life that sees me for who I am. And I'm like, well, I will stand with you and champion with you to help people see that you are just this amazing, beautiful entity. And I cannot tell you, when I first met her, the people around us that were, oh, that don't they give you the willies? And you're just like all these things. And I'm like, no, I don't get that. And at the time, trans wasn't even part of a good 12 years before she came out as trans. I never did understand that uncomfortable feeling, picking up on it. Clearly there was something going on that I was clearly oblivious to, because I don't see the othering. I genuinely don't. That has always confused me. But I know that it happens, and it is an awful bullshit paradigm that I'm constantly tearing down. When it comes into my world, I feel as though the analogy in my mind is I grab it by the claws and I drag it down and shred it. I just want to shred it into pieces.
Yeah.
We are not that different. We are rich and beautiful and amazing. And if you could only step into your power and share that with authentic, beautiful amazingness and love, what would the world be if we could help each other stand in our power and be together?
And that's, you know, as you were talking, an empath. I know you are not an empath. What I was picking up there is people get uncomfortable when empaths specifically get uncomfortable when they can feel someone else is uncomfortable in the room because they're not able to show up authentically out of fear of persecution sometimes, right? Because that's in this us versus them mentality. It's gotten so bad that there are entire groups of people that literally have to live in fear of their very lives. And that should never have to be the case. And when we are uncomfortable with ourselves, we project that lack of comfort onto everyone else around us too. And that's why this us versus them mentality to me is the biggest bullshit and the most important thing to untangle. Because yes, when we realize I'm not that different from you, you're not that different from me, I'm not that different from him or them or whatever, we all bleed the same kind of blood, right? Like there's not that much under the surface that's different.
I use these joking things. I say, like, so far I haven't met an alien so far.
You were saying, I had a good giggle.
There's so many entities, though, that are walking around in human meat suits that are kind of alien, and that's okay too. But because we all wear a meat suit, so to speak, right? Like, there's a felt sense of difference sometimes, but we're all experiencing the meat suit. So far, I haven't watched anybody not be in a meat suit. So far,
right?
Change.
I mean, who knows what the next few generations bring? But you know, the bottom line here is like we need to start seeing one another as entities that we are, right? As the beings that we are, and no one deserves violence. No one deserves to be punted off of their blueprint, right? And that I think that the biggest source of getting off of our blueprints is ultimately trauma. Trauma is the root of everything. Generational trauma is probably the biggest one right now, but also just global trauma, right? Natural disasters, the pandemic, like these things are massive traumas that end up impacting people for a long time. And when we continue to deliberately perpetuate it, like one of my famous phrases is, there is already enough pain and suffering in the world without us causing it to each other. Because there is already natural disaster, there is already disease and death. There are accidents, right? We don't need to deliberately go, oh, you've got a different color skin than me, so I hate you, right? Like, why? I don't understand.
Or you're a different gender, so your gender puts you in this box of less than. I don't understand the less than, greater than thing. Back to leadership. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, how many jobs I've had where the bottom. I don't think I've ever actually been hired for a job where I didn't start out at pretty much the beginning that you could start out as. And I end up in these leadership positions. I'm usually pretty confused as to how the hell I got there. And I'm grateful for the experiences. I truly am, because my blueprint was written by me. So I'm obviously trying to teach myself something. And yet I'm very uncomfortable in leadership roles because of the paradigm of us versus them, greater or smaller, or black and white, or man or woman, or rich or poor, or pick a thing. Like, that's the make comfortable, because the word leadership to me goes along a blueprint that has leadership. For everybody who has the leadership blueprint thing, they go through awful things, and that kind of has a little bad taste in my mouth. But also that I think the wheel is the best analogy, that we're all of us are the center of our own little wheel, right? Body, mind, spirit, emotion, all the elements. But we're not in isolation. We're not manifested out of nothing. We are born through a womb. So we are surrounded. We are surrounded by the end of our mother. We're surrounded. We connect to our entities within. We are born into this world where we have mothers, fathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles. Even a child that's adopted has community. No one is in isolation unless you choose that. Because there are blueprints that choose that, but that is so rare. That's like 1 in 500 million. Like, it's just a huge one-off.
Yeah.
I can't say it doesn't happen, but usually even the person that's in isolation will tell you, like, I had a childhood, I was surrounded by community, I made this decision, I came out of my isolation. You know, like, there's we don't grow in a vacuum. And we need each other, and no one person's journey is better or worse than anyone else's. You and I've talked about this. Like, every once in a while somebody goes, oh my God, I didn't even know. God, when did that happen in your life? And they go through these like physical
Yup.
jarring expressions, and they go, how the hell are you alive?
I know that one.
I don't know. I just lived it because it was. But your journey, look at all the things that you experienced. And I've had people, I actually am thinking of one right now, and she often says, well, I have it pretty good. I haven't really had a bad life. So I don't want to complain about anything that I've had it worse. And I went, oh my God. Again,
God.
us versus them, black and white, better or worse.
Hierarchy.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yep.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Stop the hierarchy.
Stop it. We are all in this together. And if
Yep.
we can't learn to do it together, we will continue to perpetuate the us versus them, tearing everything apart. And people will continue to suffer that they don't need to suffer.
Right.
And that starts with you. It starts in your everyday life. If somebody says something that feeds that us versus them, stop it. Stop the moment. I'll use that cacao ceremony. I was like, God, should be community. This should be using the medicine of the cacao to create community, not trauma dumping, not spreading everything else out and putting this one per pedestal. That's where it's gotten fucked up. Like,
Right. That doesn't feel good.
No, the opportunity is truly coming together, and there are people in this crowd that have trauma therapy skills that could be used in this ceremony. There could be a formula to create equity in that healing space. It doesn't mean that you don't share the things that are traumatic, that you want to heal them, but you do them in a container that's held equitably. And there is no leader.
There's no hierarchy.
It just makes my teeth itch. I can't quite. Oh.
Yes, and this is, you know, my thoughts on it. I think everyone is a leader, and going back to which bullshit was it? Bullshit number 3, I think, is the looking outside, right? People want to have an authority when they don't yet believe in themselves. They want someone else to have the answers. They want to know that they can look to another being, and that being is going to go, well, here's the answer, this is the solution, all is well, right? But that isn't the case. And the sooner that we understand our own inner authority, the
Mhm.
sooner that we dismantle the hierarchy. Because we remember, like, I have authority over myself, and I'm allowed to show up in my truth and my authenticity and share compassionately, equitably, openly, and other people will be able to reflect off of that and find their own answers. Like, we can prompt one another, we can hold space for one another, but we don't have to seek each other out for the answer, right? And I was just
Yeah.
saying to a client the other day, like, when we feel stuck in ourselves, that is a call to go out to the larger wheel, to the community, and say, like, okay, I'm going through this thing and I'm just feeling really stuck here in this aspect of it. Like, what's coming in for you as I share this, right? And then we get to hear from, and this is important sometimes too, like, hear from a variety of different people, a variety of different
Yeah.
natural numbers, because everyone
Oh,
has different
yes.
gifts, and then come back into ourselves and go, okay, I just got all this information. What's actually authentic for me? What did I hear there that prompted, an entity within to have a response? Like, let me go back in and, like, really receive the fullness of this, not just, oh, they gave me the answer, I'm going with that, or I have to isolate and no one has the answers and I'm just hopeless and I have to despair. So,
There's a quality, and you did it. I love how you did that. Collect, sit, have a pause. I see a lot of people in a lot of these bullshit different kinds of scenarios truly not understanding the power of a pause. That pause, it's okay. We all do it.
I have a perfect example for this for you guys.
I want to hear it.
Well, so last year, I knew I was moving away from my therapy practice. I knew, like, at the beginning of 2023, I just knew. I didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. I had all this fear. It was a whole thing, but I knew. So I started to collect. I started to collect coaches, communities, information, practices. I was collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting, and I never paused. And then finally, I couldn't collect anymore because my hands were so full that I was like, "Oh shit, I can't even take all of this in now that I've collected it all." And so I finally paused after like a year of doing this and went, "Oh, I need to actually go within to find the answers of what parts I've collected that are actually relevant to me." Because I was like, I've got to figure out how to do all of them. No. And that's where we can over collect and we can, like, overindulge and take in so much that we can't catalyze it or alchemize it anymore because we're just too full, right? Like, it's when you eat too much food and your tummy's really upset. Like, I literally was, my system was too upset. I couldn't figure out what was me anymore and what was everyone else because I'd overtaken in. It's a thing we
Yeah.
do.
And there's a quality of minding it too, right? Like our world tells us, and I think you said it even, like the fear kicked in, right? Collect all the things, and the right answer will mind itself. It will mind to me, right? How do they use it? I've heard so many cliches with it, like your mind will know, or they will let you know, or that's not. And I get criticized. I've been criticized my whole life. I read prolifically. I have 4 books right now that I'm reading. Reading The Grandmother's Hands third time. Okay. So a little bit, and I pause. I go for a walk. I go into the garden. I go to a meeting. I do something else. I let my mind do something in the background. It's doing something else while my body is feeling into it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I read stuff, if I let my mind, oh yeah, it leads to the next book, the next book, the next podcast, it's like it feeds the current of non-stillness. It can
Right.
also go into this place of, usually it's one of my guides, honestly, that just kind of goes, dude, stop it. Like I really truly get that voice of, you're going into a layer of bullshit you don't even know you're headed into. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. So there's a place of, when you're to connect it into this coming into your power and coming into your strength and being you as an entity, integrated in your meat suit, present with the people around you, able to recognize all the layers of the bullshit, right? Means that I read a lot. I do. And sometimes I gobble up something in an afternoon, easy peasy. Other times I read and I sit and I go and I do something and I let it click, coalesce, match in, come together, be a part of me. It also makes research papers really difficult for me, because when I know something, it's like, I don't remember where the hell I read
I don't know
that.
where this came from.
But, and if it's a truth with a capital T, to borrow our friend Gloria's word, if it's a truth with a capital T, it fits. It just fits. If it is not a truth with a capital T, it's part of the bullshit, and you can let it go, forget it. It doesn't belong. It doesn't mean you don't use that information later, because it might come up in a conversation. I know somebody last weekend, and she made a statement, and I went, oh, I know where she got that from. And I was able to, in 10-minute conversation, untangle a knotted ball of bullshit that she didn't even know she was holding.
Yep.
And she was like,
Yeah.
whoa, we need to talk to you more. I'm like, oh, my sweet summer child, you were not quite ready for that. I said that
Yes.
in my head.
Yes.
And not I'm the answer to all the things, but that is my job, is to reflect back and untangle the bullshit. So if you're sure you're ready to untangle the bullshit, I would love to talk to you. I would love to, because I find so much joy in helping somebody step into being a part of a community that says, I am here to help you. You are helping me, and we are in this together. I do not want to be that continues the paradigm of us versus them, and making yourself better than us.
Right.
I won't participate. Every time somebody, even in Body of Nine, I've had conversations with people in Body of Nine. Oh, Red leader. I'm like, nope. And they get a little butthurt at me. I'm like, no, you think you're giving me a compliment. You think you're stroking my ego. You think you're encouraging me to be in my power and do my thing. Trust me, I got there. Got this, not a problem. What you're trying to do is put your ego and your fear and your bullshit on me, and I'm not carrying that backpack. I did that for a while. That was heavy, and it didn't work very well.
It's exhausting.
Ain't doing it anymore.
Yeah,
It
if we
is
all
exhausting.
carry our own pack, and then, if we were all to carry our own pack and we're in the community and one of us gets really tired, someone else can pick it up temporarily for us. That's very
Yes,
true. But that's with
absolutely.
consent and with that healthy community that says it's all of us, it's on all of us to do this together.
That's the other bullshit. We found another one, consent. The
Oh,
assumption that to grow, I don't know how to phrase it. I can feel it. It's this sense of, if you're doing your thing, if you're living in your power, then you're responsible to do things whether somebody gives you consent to do it or not. And that's the part I get really, oh, that fires me up. I can feel that. That feels negligent. That's the word I'm looking for. It feels negligent. You are being carelessly culpable with your power, and you are being negligent to your purpose by assuming that's your job to push your power on someone else. And that is not with consent. You have
Yeah.
to honor the people around you. That is so important. We are all individual entities that have purpose and a blueprint, and we've come here to do a thing. But don't make me swallow your purple Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And that to me, you know, the bullshit is I'm wording this. If you believe you're living in your power
Mm,
and you believe you're living in your power and you think it's your job to push that power at others without their consent because you
yeah.
believe you're standing in your power. Like that's where
It's an ego piece, right? Like it's like an ego trauma tangle of some kind. It's layered, right?
yeah.
But it's so many times.
Yeah, I
And
see it in the coaching world a lot. Like, I have the
oh,
solution and this is it. And if you're not doing it, you're in the wrong. Whoa.
well, it's very culty, it's very religious-y. We have that in our world right now. It's the us versus them. My religion is the right religion. Your religion is evil and sinful. My way of practicing my religion is the only way to do it. Like, and the next layer is, oh, I actually teach this when I teach ethics and energy. I teach an energy medicine class to a massage school. And at the very first class, about, is it ethical to tell somebody, I'm going to pray for you?
Ooh, that is a hot topic and I love it. Ooh, yeah, because
Right?
there's judgment in that.
There's a lot of that, right? So it's always a fascinating conversation. Every class is a little different, right? Because some of them, when I say it that way, they want to say yes because they've been told to say yes, but they feel the wrongness of the yes as soon as they try to say it because it's never been phrased that way before.
Yep.
Again, devil's advocate. Like, I'm just wanting you to think, right? I just want you to think. And usually the discussion kind of goes in the direction of, have you asked permission? Do you know that person as an entity? Are they sensitive enough to pick up on that prayer? Sensitive enough to pick up on your judgment and your right and wrongness, us versus them, that you think you're going as neutral as possible, but you may not be. Could you be assaulting that person energetically and not understand that that's what's happening?
Mm,
You know, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just wanting to do ethics of your perception of what
yeah.
you think you believe is a power over someone else's paradigm. Where are they in their blueprint? Because we talked about blueprint a lot, right? And it could be that we've just thrown a whole bunch of minefields at people and people are like, well, then I can't do anything. I can't pray for them. I can't give them energy. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. There is so much to do in all of these.
But
Consent
that's
is
the
a
thing,
big deal.
consent. I'm literally teaching at the end of this month a master class I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it's called, but it's about we can experience more pleasure in life when everything's consensual. And I'm not
Yes.
even going to touch on sexual consent in it because that's like the basic, like most people get the line there. They're not
Well,
people that always
they
follow
do.
it, but which is a whole other topic. But we don't understand, most of us don't understand that consent can literally be a, would you be open to me praying for you? What would you like me to pray for you with? Hi, I'm hosting a thing. Would you like to come? Hi, I'm going through a rough time right now. Would you be open to holding space for me? Like everything with consent opens
Absolutely.
everything.
And recognizing that a rejection, right? Like I don't have space for that, isn't a rejection of who you are. I mean, I love how you and I communicate, Safrianna. Like, I'll send a text. I'll go, okay, she's probably doing this. I don't know what you're doing. Do you have space and time? And if few, and I go, oh, cool. Let me think about it. Nope, not right now. You're going to need more time for that. How about tomorrow? Or it's we've done it a couple different ways, right? Like I'm going to put this here. I'm going to dump it into our communication platform. I'm going to go, here I need to share with, don't worry about responding right away. I know you're doing something else. I just need to get it out. Like, it's a consent of space and time. You can look at that and go, yeah, I'm going to read it. And then I already know we have agreed on the consent of the barrier, right? Like there's a boundary there. I do. Do you have time from them? My feelings are not hurt. Trust me, my feelings are really not hurt. I have now moved on to the other person that I'm going to ask. My husband is a wonderful example. He's an amazing human, and sometimes he has a hard time humaning. So he'll come home, and because I'm not empathic and he hasn't actually said the words, I'll start talking, right? And he'll go, stop. I go, oh, whoops, I am so sorry. And he'll go, can I have a shower? Can I eat a meal? Yeah, sure. I'll go away. And then usually I kind of forget to come back after a while. And he'll like come find me to say, so you were trying to talk to me and I had to go do something else. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And he goes, you're not upset? Nope, not upset. I had moved on, right? It's consent. You have to respect the people you're around. And
yep.
As somebody who does coaching, it's really interesting. There are clients that I have to kind of really reinforce over and over and over again. You with me. I promise I will not be answering if it's outside of my boundary. But I communicate rather than do I'm going to build it all up for 6 months and then cry for an hour, first hour of our session. Like, I mean, I'll hold space for you, but
we can't really go very far with this because you didn't trickle it in over time, right?
Right. And there's a consent as a practitioner that I'm giving my client. And I ask my clients, may I send you, you've heard me do, you've seen me do this. I've done a text like, hey, would it be okay if I sent you energy? Absolutely. Or no, it doesn't hurt my feeling. But the assumption that whatever your magical power is should be received by the person without their consent is icky and dirty. And I am going to say this, it is akin to rape.
Yeah, that energetic. Right. And so that's where, I think that we can have these inner safeguards too. We can say, like, if we're really feeling a strong pull to send energy to somebody or connect with them or pray for them, to caveat, if this is in your highest good and you wish to receive it, if your higher self wishes to receive this, you get to be that gatekeeper and you get to take it in or not. Right? Like, consent on our side to say, like, because sometimes we don't have contact with someone we're thinking about, right? Like, for example, me with that ex, right? That ex pops in my head from time to time, and I do my best to be like, I am immediately detaching and cutting the cord, and if it's useful for you at a soul level, I am just sending you love and peace right now, and you don't have to take that. And then I detach myself.
Yeah, the boundary is so important, and it's the bullshit untangling of getting caught in that. We've talked about it before, that toxic positivity where I am an enlightened being and I have the answers to all the things, and I'm going to force you to engage with me. I'm going to force you to take my higher energetic medicine of whatever the hell it is. And I'm going to force you to acknowledge that I'm a good entity.
Because I'm being so helpful.
Right? There's a part of me that kind of giggles when people get mad, because it reminds me of something my dad said when I was little. He goes, if you go through your life without pissing anybody off, you're probably doing something wrong. And I really didn't understand what that meant for a while, but wow, it makes me giggle now. I go, hee 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 hee. Like, I pissed you off, hee hee.
Yeah. And it like when we stand in our power, we will piss other people off. And just by virtue of standing in our power, because it's usually other people who aren't quite yet in their power, and they're upset for us asking the hard questions and bringing the shadow forward and pointing out the bullshit that doesn't need to continue. Like oh my gosh, there's so much. So I think this was a great like primer. We have 10
Yeah,
types of
it's a
bullshit
bummer.
to unpack. And if you're watching this in the replay and you're like, oh my gosh, well, this triggered for me a thought of this other form of bullshit, and you want us to talk about it, let us know, because we're here to
Yes.
untangle that. That was something after Red and I got off of our last call, which was about the entities within. Um, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just getting that we need to talk more about the real issues that are here." So Red and I are here to do that. So if there is
Yes.
a challenging topic that you would like us to explore, like let us know that. Don't be afraid, because we're busting through our own stuff to just show up and have these
Yeah.
conversations, because it proves that we can do it, and we can have little disagreements, and we can stretch each other, and we can
Yeah.
stand in our own ground and be like, and
Mhm.
that's okay that you have yours too. Like
Oh yeah.
there is no one size fits all.
No, no. And there are big societal issues right now that I think the big thing is the big that a lot of individual people are terrified to step up and into these very difficult topics because they don't know where the bullshit is. They really don't know. And they're inundated by all these I am right, you are wrong. I am right, no, I am right, you are wrong. And the divisiveness is, I liken it to those of us, and it's not just Safriana and I. Like, there are a lot of people out there that are doing some really good work in the world, very much like a mother does with two kids who've hit each, one kid's hit each other over the head with the toy, and the mom goes, Johnny, why did you hit her with the toy? Well, because he pulled my hair. And then you ask Johnny, well, why did you pull my hair? Well, because he spit on my, and then it's like, well, why didn't you ball? And you go back and forth and back and forth, and all boils down to something that had nothing to do with the final truck hitting the head. Like,
Right.
it gets lost. The bullshit loses the point. And there are issues. There's homelessness, there's sexism, there's trans issues, there's class issues, there's race issues, there's body
There's
issues. I mean,
genocide.
genocide. There's, why the hell are we even in war at this point? Where are we
I
even
wish I
killing
knew.
each other? Does not understand.
Us versus them.
Again, right. But it's so big. And I've had conversations with people, they don't feel in their own life. I've talked to people who are like, well, I'm not going to do this, or I'm just going to avoid this, because they've gotten lost in the bullshit of the bigness of stuff.
Yep.
And what I challenge everyone to do, if you're listening to this in the world at any point in the future, I challenge you to do this. Wherever you are in your life, take a breath, drink a glass of water, go for a walk outside by yourself. Find a space of peace with yourself. And then look at not the bigness. The bigness, you can get lost in the bigness. A 9, like Safriana, she can hold that bigness. Woohoo, awesome. I'm
I do
something
all day, every
different.
day.
You do. And I'm something different. So I don't know what the hell I can tell you how to relate to. But my advice is, what are the relationships in your life that matter to you? How do you nurture them? And how would you step up to the plate in your small world to make that world better for them? And then you take it 1 percentage point higher and you go outside of that, and that's where you start your work. Because you're already doing it with her kids. She's going to work. She's picking them up from school. She's going to baseball. She's doing all the things. Dad's doing it too. Grandma's doing it. Grandpa's doing it. You're all these mini little microcosms of movement, right? Connection, community. I'm challenging you to find where that passion is and just take a half a percentage point out. And that's where you start your participation in the bigness, because that's too big for most people. Most out of the 9 different types of physiological types of bodies, 9 and 5 are pretty much, maybe a little bit of 7, depending on the existential dread impact. Those are pretty much the only ones who can handle the bigness. So let them handle it. Don't worry about that. Come back in and start with your 0.1% turn. Step outside and go, this is what I'm passionate about. And find the connections in that community that you can have a say, a word, and that's all I ask. You can do it, because we're doing it. So if we can do it, you can do it. We're not that different.
No. And that's, my mission and purpose is just stand in the doingness, the beingness, and show other people what's possible. That's so much of my mission, which is why, going back to our list of bullshits, like I could tell you a story for every single one of where I've gotten in my own way. So there is no shame, no blame. We've all been there. It's about coming back to self, having self-compassion ultimately is the most important thing to say. Like, I am a human right now. You might not have always been a human right now, but you are a human right now, no matter what. And you're having a human experience. And to get through the complexities of human experience requires truly deep compassion and awareness, a willingness to be aware of your own picture, your own bullshit. So again, you don't have to take in the bigness. You can just start right here, and see what's going on within.
Beautiful.
So thank you, Red, as always. I hope this conversation was useful to someone out there. I'm sure Red and I will have a lot more that will come up from this that we will explore. But we will be back in about 2 weeks to continue the conversation. All right.
Have a blessed day, my friends.